Hi, this is Paul Nerland, your County Administrative Officer, and I'm here with Paige Benavides, your Interim Budget Director. Welcome, Paige.
Thanks, Paul.
Before we get too far into the recommended budget that was just approved, I want to take a moment to reflect on the last year. Included in this email is the 22-23 annual report. I would encourage every employee to take a look at this document. It's a great booklet to talk about all the wonderful things that we've done. Paige, it's great to have you here in this new role. If you were to tell employees just a few highlights about it, what would you say?
This year's budget is $4.8 billion. Last year's budget was $4.4 billion. Overall, Paul, this is a conservative budget. It's responsible in line with our conservative budgeting principles. Our discretionary revenues, these are the green dollars that we budget. We are budgeting $354 million this year.
So even though we have a $4.8 billion budget, $354 million is the amount that's discretionary, essentially, for the county to spend any way that fits this community.
That's right. Most of those dollars go to the Justice Service Departments, Sheriff, Probation, District Attorney. And that's generated primarily by property tax growth and sales tax.
So this year, even though we're beginning to see the economy slowing, it was a very good year looking back when it came to property tax. And so looking forward, we're expecting potentially less.
That's correct. There's been some other changes from last year's budget. What would you like to highlight?
We've got a couple new capital projects that we're increasing the amounts to. So our ag department has been in the same building for so many years, and we put more money towards their new building near our juvenile justice campus, and also for the CAO board offices, which are currently here in the Hall of Records, but we're looking at options and increasing that in the future. We also began funding a new downtown parking structure, and so we put $7.5 million in the budget towards a future project that would be a county parking structure. So that's just a few of the highlights. As employees are hearing about the budget, I'm sure some of the things they're thinking about is, what's the future hold, and do we have any concerns? One of the things is the housing market, and so as the housing market cools, how could that affect our budget going forward?
The housing market cooling could potentially have an effect on our property tax revenue. And as the market cools, our property tax revenue slows and the county costs continue to increase.
If there's less discretionary revenue that families have, some of our employees, we're dealing with realizing that it's costing us so much more. How could that affect the county when it comes to revenue going forward?
That means for the county is that there's less sales tax revenue. And statewide, we've seen a reduction in sales tax over the last 4 months. 3 out of those last 4 months have seen a reduction in sales tax revenue.
At the federal or state level, when it comes to their budget, does that have an impact on our budget at all?
The federal and state budgets are big unknowns. We're concerned about funding being cut from the federal budget. We are also concerned about the state budget, which was estimated to be at a $32 billion deficit. We will know more in October.
So as we talk about that, I want our employees to know that we are watching that like a hawk. We have advocates that we work with that make sure they know the impact of any decision they make on local counties like ours. But in the meantime, we still have to plan, and so the budget that we have in front of us does the best that we can. What are some of the things that we do in the budgeting process that help make sure that we're going to be okay?
The recommended budget includes general reserves, increasing those general reserves of $10 million from 70 in the prior year to 80 in the current year. We've also set aside $32 million in budget mitigation, or a budget stabilization reserve, and that's up $12 million from the previous year. And that's our rainy day fund for anything that could impact departments' budgets.
I have been here during times that we had to make very difficult decisions. We had to lay off county employees. So one of the reasons we put this funding in the budget is I don't ever want to be in a situation like that here at the county. I want to make sure that we've got funding that is sustainable for the future. And so I want our employees hearing this to know that and have comfort as we prepare for economic uncertainty. Well, Paige, I want to thank you for your time and answering some questions as we talk to our employees about the county budget. Anything you'd like to add before we end?
I'd just like to express a big thank you to department heads and business managers and all of the fiscal support staff who really worked hard this budget season, and glad to be partnering with them.
Paige, thank you again just for taking the time to talk to our employees about this budget. It's such an important, big process, and a lot don't understand just what goes into it. So thank you for doing that. And thank you for watching this video and taking the time. If you have time, take a look at our budget. There's a lot that goes on within Fresno County and a $4.8 billion budget that we've worked through. I'm very pleased with this year's budget. I also want to thank the Board of Supervisors for their support and their leadership in approving this budget this week. Thank you.